It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all. May I tell you just Happy New Year to all of you. Keep in good health in the coming months, and I'm sure we will master this terrible virus all together, and we will recover, especially in our cities where sometimes the situation is difficult for many people. So Happy New Year and good health for all your families. I am very honored to open this event. Thanks to Jan and Kasia, the Urban Group is organizing this seminar on the new Leipzig Charter and the implementation document. Thanks to the German presidency, and thank you, Mr. Minister, the ministers in charge of urban issues of the EU member states met to update the Leipzig Charter. It was, as you know, created in 2007 to promote integrated and sustainable urban development through Europe. Since then, the challenges have evolved and Europe has made more ambitious commitments with especially the Green Deal, with the aim to become the first carbon neutral continent. So it's to take into account the Green Deal that the new urban issues and the challenges of the current crisis that the new Leipzig Charter has been created. But Mr. Minister, you will tell us more about that, I'm sure, more in detail. As a former mayor of the city of Strasbourg, I am convinced that cities are central for this objective. Of course, in our cities, we have all these heating systems, transports, organizations, and we have also a larger responsibility in the construction of housing and offices. It's therefore a major and priority issue for the implementation of the Green Deal. Many cities in Europe have already been experimenting ambitious environmental policies for years now. Those initiatives must be financially encouraged by European programs. They must be shared horizontally. It is essential to encourage the sharing of experience and dialogue between European cities. So we have this central issue of governance and implementation, which is described in the documents we have shared in preparation of this meeting. So I welcome a lot, and I thank again Jan and Saskia to have organized today's debate on the new charter and its implementation. I would particularly like to congratulate and thank you, Jan, because you make this urban group lively and you keep on organizing events, even though the circumstances are complicated. So thank you very much. And as you are very involved in the budget issues, it's very important, of course, to be, so you can be more efficient in this issue of our cities and the link between the European programs vertically and the way we implement them among the networks of cities in Europe. So thank you all. I hope we are going to have a very positive, I'm sure we are going to have a very positive seminar this morning.
Yes, thank you, merci, thank you, Fabienne. And today's meeting is especially concentrated on the Leipzig Charter. I would just, before giving the floor to Mr. Minister, I would just mention two important persons who are with us when I see the list of participants, because I see our former colleague from the Parliament, Gisela Kallenbach, who was very active in the first Leipzig Charter. Gisela is from Leipzig, so Gisela, I will welcome you very warmly. And you are one of the
Jan, we can't hear you anymore. Jan.
Okay, and Jean-Marie Beaupuy, the former president of the INTEGROUP, And I think that all together we were making the intergroup was quite dynamic through many, many years. So for Gisela and Jean-Marie Bopi, I would like to welcome you very warmly, hoping that we will have your participation in our debate. And now, morning, Gisela. Good morning. Yes, okay. Thank you very much. So I hope that you will take part in the debate. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Minister Tilman Buchholz, the German Federal Ministry of the Interior, Building and Community. And we will be very grateful, Mr. Minister, that you will present us the result of the works on the new Leipzig Charter, especially on the shape of the charter and also the implementation document. So, Mr. Minister, the floor is yours, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jan Ulrich and Fabian Keller. First of all, of course, I have to correct a little bit. I'm not the minister. Sorry for that. I'm just senior advisor in the Federal Ministry of the Interior, Building and Community in Germany, and I have been in charge of this whole exercise around the Leipzig Charter and the German EU Council presidency in the second semester of the last year. And for me, it's a big pleasure to have the opportunity to present here the outcome of our presidency in this circle here. I would like to ask Kasia to start the presentation, if possible. Yeah, thank you so much. I have seen here on the participants list that many of those who are out there now all over Europe should be quite familiar with what I will present because you were involved in this whole preparation process of the new Leipzig Charter and the implementation document, but of course not all of you, and therefore it's a great pleasure for me to present to you some highlights of the agreements that have been made during the German Council presidency. The next slide, please. The next slide here highlights the date of the informal ministerial on urban development. That was on the 30th November of 2020, so not far away. It was this was a ministerial for urban development. It was combined with the ministerial on territorial cohesion. And on urban development, the ministers responsible for urban development from all over Europe agreed on two documents. The new Leipzig Charter is a political, strategical document, and the implementation document. Both documents really belong together. The Leipzig Charter is the strategy, the political framework for integrated urban development for the years to come, let's say 10 years. And the implementation document then deals with the question how to translate the principles of the Leipzig Charter into reality on the ground in the European cities. Yeah, the next slide, please. This shows here the new Leipzig Charter in a nutshell, and you see on the left side on the top, you see the 5 key principles of good urban governance as the new Leipzig Charter describes it. These 5 key principles indeed apply to 3 dimensions of the European cities, the just, green, productive cities at 3 spatial levels. I will come back to the main elements of the New Leipzig Charter, and on the bottom line of this graphic, you can see what the New Leipzig Charter highlights in relation to empowerment of cities. What do cities need to cope with all these challenges that are described in the Leipzig Charter? The next slide, please, and then we can go through this document briefly. The preamble highlights that the New Leipzig Charter takes into account the current and future global challenges, but also responds to global and European agreements like the SDGs or the New Urban Agenda on the global scale, but for instance also the European Green Deal as a major European priority, to mention only these. The Charter points out that framework conditions have to be strengthened to reach these goals. What is really key to the Leipzig Charter and new also in relation to the Leipzig Charter of 2007 is this notion of the common good that is really a kind of red thread throughout the whole document. The next slide, please. The starting point of the New Leipzig Charter are for sure the values of the European cities as they are, as you can find it here on the slide: pluralism, creativity, solidarity, democratic rights and values. These are mentioned in the Charter, and also the characteristics of the urban system in Europe with all its small and medium-sized towns. This document also highlights the prominent role of high-quality urban public spaces in our cities, and also the notion of the Baukultur, of a high-quality planning system. That is also part of this New Leipzig Charter, and it addresses also the question of resilience of cities as an important feature, meaning the abilities of cities to cope with external shocks and chronic stress. And for sure, the pandemic is a matter of in this direction. And next slide, please. The New Leipzig Charter proposes 3 different spatial scales of the European cities where action has to be taken. It's a neighborhood level with a particular attention on deprived neighborhoods. Then it's the city as a whole, or the local authority in their specific national context, as it's described like that in the document. And the functional area, that means a regional or metropolitan context. This is also a new element compared to the Leipzig Charter of 2007 that at that time focused more or less exclusively on the neighborhood level, whereas now we take into account all other relevant levels. The next slide, please. There we move to this to these 3 dimensions of the European city. The Leipzig Charter says urban transformation is based on 3 dimensions: the green city, the just city, the productive city. This is, as you can easily see, this triangle of sustainability that's behind this concept. And the Leipzig Charter also says digitalization is another dimension, but it's more a cross-cutting issue that affects all other three dimensions. The next slide now it goes a little bit more into detail of these three dimensions. So what are the characteristics of the just, the green, and the productive city? The just city, of course, it's about equal opportunities for all, socially balanced neighborhoods, mixed and safe neighborhoods. It's about integration policies, anti-segregation policies. Then the green city, that's of course aiming at combating global warming, so everything that is around climate change. Then we have this creation of high quality urban environment that is addressed in the Charter, climate neutral energy supply, then of course sustainable mobility as another important factor. And then the productive city, and this idea describes these innovative and competitive cities, also with this shift towards digital, service-oriented and low-carbon economy that allows to promote a better mix of functions in our cities, and work and living and leisure and so on coming together. Yeah, what is also of course very important is that these three dimensions must not be seen as silos, but we have many interlinkages between all of them. That is, of course, yeah, the main idea of integrated urban development. And that leads me now to the next slide, the key principles of good urban governance. That's indeed a key element of the Leipzig Charter. First, we have this urban policy for the common good, and that is about strengthening cohesion of social societies. It is the idea to act in the interest of all, to balance public and private interests with market mechanisms, and also to empower urban stakeholders to implement urban policy for the common good. So that is something that is really new, and that is really a key key element of the new Leipzig Charter. The integrated approach as another principle has already also been introduced in the Leipzig Charter of 2007, so not absolutely new. The same is true for participation, as of course another very important aspect that was also highlighted in the Leipzig Charter of 2007. But now we widen this idea to this notion of co-creation, co-production of the city. Then multi-level governance, that was also part of the 2007 Leipzig Charter, and this is of course this inclusion of all levels, vertical and horizontal cooperation. And well, the urban agenda for the EU, I think it's a very good example already for multi-level governance. And then we have the place-based approach as another key principle that was also implicitly, let's say that like that implicitly included in the Leipzig Charter of 2007. So the places as reference points for integrated urban development, enabling an endogenous urban transformation. So these are these key principles. Then we move on to the next slide, and this now leads us to another new element of the charter. This charter does not stop at listing principles and general objectives of urban development, but it goes further and tackles the questions: what do cities need to be able to cope with all these challenges? And the Leipzig Charter says they need support from all levels, European, national, and regional level. And generally speaking, they need legal framework conditions from all levels. They need investment capacities and funding resources. Then it's of course about skilled employees, staffing, and it's of course then steerability and shaping of infrastructure, public services, and welfare in the sense of this guaranteeing this common good. And next slide, please. Then the New Leipzig Charter also addresses the member states and appeals member states to establish national urban policies. Also, the Leipzig Charter 2007 asked member states to act in that direction, but the New Leipzig Charter really underlines the importance of activity also on the national scale. And while we here in the Leipzig Charter, we describe main elements of national urban policies. It's exchange of knowledge, this platform for dialogue. Then of course it's about funding, and it's of course also providing incentives for innovation and giving room for experimentation. Yeah, these are the elements of national urban policies, and we have to admit we took a little bit this German national urban development policy a little bit as a blueprint, because we have exactly these elements in our policy, but we see these developments also in a couple of other member states, and we hope for more activity in the future. The next slide now is the last slide dealing with the New Leipzig Charter. And this is how the Charter addresses the European level. It's about coherent EU regulation and funding instrument. Of course, the Charter stresses or acknowledges the achievements of the urban agenda for the EU with the three better strands: better regulation, better funding, better knowledge. Then it's about the urban dimension of cohesion policy. And there we are very happy that we have, I think, very good framework conditions for this funding of integrated urban development in the ERDF, with now 8% of minimum share for integrated urban development. And I think that's also a great success by the European Parliament that really was very much in favor and pushed in that direction. Then we mention also the European Urban Initiative as a new approach coming from the Commission. With its different elements, and then the Charter addresses the coordination of vertical and horizontal exchange of knowledge and expertise. So these are the ideas, the main elements of the New Leipzig Charter as a strategic document, as I have already mentioned. And now I can switch on to the next document, the second document that was adopted at the informal ministerial, and that is absolutely linked with the new Leipzig Charter. The full title is indeed implementing the new Leipzig Charter through multi-level governance, next steps for the development of the urban agenda. And that is indeed the main focus of this document. It's a shared vision for the future of the urban agenda, and main political message in that document is that the urban agenda will be continued. And this document contains a number of building blocks that you can find here on this slide, and describes the main cornerstones of the future development of the urban agenda. And let me perhaps express here at the beginning that this document must be seen as a first step for the development of the urban agenda. We now all together work with the details, how the urban agenda will be continued. There will be another informal ministerial at the end of this year under Slovene presidency, and then all details concerning the urban agenda will be agreed and adopted. So there's still a lot to do, but I will now show you what the main content of this document is with regard to the next step of the urban agenda. So the next slide, please. It's about maintaining, reinforcing multi-level, multi-stakeholder cooperation, and this chapter highlights this multi-level governance character of the urban agenda. Thematic partnerships, as we know them, they will remain the key delivery mode of the urban agenda, but also other delivery modes or forms of cooperation may be considered in the future. And that would mean the urban agenda would be more flexible in the future in terms of duration, composition, and output of the delivery modes. Future themes should be linked to EU policy objectives or priorities, like the Green Deal, like the digital strategy, the European Pillar of Social Rights, and Recovery Plan for Europe, but also to the new Leipzig Charter, of course, as a major strategic document for the years to come. So that's about the partnerships or delivery modes. And the next slide here then deals with better regulation and better funding. And these are those strands of the urban agenda where I think we all agree that more action is needed. This document proposes to link the activities closer to the EU policy cycle and to existing processes and institutions to raise awareness and achieve improvements in these fields. And this is mainly the Fit for Future platform in the better regulation agenda that is meant here. The document points out that the partnerships need legal and structural procedural expertise, and here also the Dutch Better Regulation Initiative will contribute to strengthen this strand of the urban agenda. Next slide, please. The chapter on better knowledge addresses the two elements that we can find in the Pact of Amsterdam, the knowledge base and knowledge exchange, and calls for a more targeted approach for example, links to research programs and platforms that can be improved. The strategic alignment between the urban agenda, the territorial agenda that was, as I have mentioned, adopted at the same ministerial next day. So urban agenda, territorial agenda, cohesion policy, especially the urban dimension of cohesion policy, and also national urban policies. That's another important objective here. And to achieve this better alignment, the document proposes the establishment of national contact points, building on existing structures and depending on the national context and national needs, of course. And here we have a clear link to the European Urban Initiative, as also these national contact points are foreseen in this initiative. Therefore, it's an ongoing discussion with the Commission how to establish and to realize these national contact points. So the next slide, please. It's about governance, governing the urban agenda. Governance, of course, is a key issue. Until now, we can see some deficits here. Important message of this document is that the intergovernmental cooperation and the member states play a key role in the steering of the urban agenda. To achieve progress in terms of governance, a Secretariat for Urban Matters shall be established, and this shall be financed under the headline of the European Urban Initiative again. So there's another clear link to this European Urban Initiative. And this Secretariat would have three main tasks, and you can see them also here on the slide. It's first a support to the partnerships. Then it's a support to steering the urban agenda by member states and Commission. And the third task deals with support to intergovernmental cooperation on urban matters. So that would be really a new element of this Secretariat. But that's also under discussion at this time, at the moment. So the next slide, and there we move to the final part of the implementation document, and it's a conclusion chapter, and this chapter addresses all the different parties and stakeholders to commit to implement the principles of the new Leipzig Charter and to sustain the urban agenda. And you can see here the list of stakeholders that is addressed in this document. Of course, includes also the European Parliament, and the Urban Intergroup as an important player is mentioned as well in the document. Yes, and well, here I would like to stop with this brief introduction into the both documents that have been adopted at the ministerial, which should have taken place in Leipzig, in the city of Leipzig originally, but for obvious reasons, we could organize it only in a digital way, well, that worked as well, although we would have preferred to welcome all our European partners in the city of Leipzig. But we hope very much that we can meet physically again somewhen this year, and hopefully under Slovene presidency. And as I have already mentioned, Slovenia will also invite to another informal ministerial at the end of this year. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to a discussion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to apologize that I call you the minister, but it's better to call minister the special advisor it's better to call this special advisor the minister than to call minister special advisor. So I think that you understand me, that nobody knows what will happen. I wish you good luck for future. But I will say that there are several colleagues from the parliament who are now with us in the intergroup, and they are coming, still coming. And Mr. Charankuve from the Greens from Ireland, Hannes Heide from Austria, from Socialist, Marcos Ros Sempre from Spain, from the Socialist, and would like to welcome you very warmly. And from our former colleagues, I would like to also to invite Madame Gutierrez Cortines, who is with us. And I hope that our colleagues like Madame Kallenbach and Jean-Marie Beaupuy will join our debate. If you want to take the floor, please, there is the chat, and there is also the raise hands raise hand system. So so you are welcome to ask for the floor. We have some time for the debate. And my first question, if I can start with question, is that okay? What was the reaction from the other governments for this proposal? How did they react? I don't want to say that they are happy or not, but I mean more constructive and future-oriented interest by the member states. What was the first reaction of the other governments, please?
Yes, thank you. I think this ministerial was a great success because there was a very, very positive reaction of other governments according to this or concerning these two documents, and a very, very high commitment of member states to implement these documents, not only to accept these documents at the ministerial, but also to closely work together in the years to come to translate these documents into reality. I mean, we had a very intensive 2 years dialogue process to prepare the informal ministerial. We started already in 2018 with our dialogue process on the national level in Germany, because we have such a rich stakeholder landscape in Germany that had to be taken on board. But primarily, of course, on the European scale, where we had a series of dialogue meetings with all the member states, with European institutions and organizations, and also members of the European Parliament took part in this dialogue process. That meant that we included all our partners from the very beginning of this activity. So the result was really a joint achievement, and I think that also all the other member states feel that they are co-producers of these two documents, and that's why I'm very confident that they keep on a high commitment in the future to live these principles of the New Leipzig Charter.
Yes, thank you. And I have a first demand for the floor. It's coming from Marcos Rossempere, our colleague from the European Parliament. Marcos, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning to everyone. Many thanks for giving me the floor. I would like to make some reflections about the new Leipzig Charter. I think it's a very good and very good structured document, and I think we have to work a lot for the next years to implement this charter. I think this charter is a reflection about how to improve, implement, develop, and deliver the European urban agenda. But basically, it insists on this, and I welcome also the opening of the 3 spatial dimensions, because not only neighborhoods but local and functional areas. I think that the issue of the functional areas is very important, because nowadays cities are not isolated and they work very linked each one to each other. But I am worried about 2 things. The one thing is that the urban agenda for the European Union is adopted many years ago, but citizens and majors, they don't see it developed. We have this on paper, but we have to pass from paper to action, and we have to implement this. And the second worry is, my second worry is the key role of the parliament, because on the implementation document, the parliament, the European Parliament is led in a minor paper, in a minor just as an advisor. We invite Parliament to, but they don't ask Parliament, or they don't give the Parliament an active role on this implementation. I think, and this is my last reflection, I think that we could try to, from the Parliament, to work on an INI or similar, on trying to link cohesion funds to urban agenda, but to link them and condition to the implementation of the urban agenda on different cities. For example, I mean, how could we evaluate, this is another problem very important, how could we evaluate the implementation of the urban agenda in a city, for example? Do we have a system of an indicators system that it is useful for to know if they are developing the urban agenda or not? Many universities, they have these different systems of indicators, but we don't have a system of indicators all through the European Union that it is valuable for everyone. Okay, so could we try to condition the fundings of European cohesion policy to the implementation of the urban agenda? I think this should be a very interesting document that we could do on the Parliament, or in this intergroup between the Parliament, the European Committee of the Regions, and also the Commission. But I think that in the Parliament, we could start working in a document related to how could we evaluate and how could we condition the obtaining of funds to the implementation of the urban agenda. Above all, my congrats for the German presidents for having adopted this new Leipzig Charter. I think it's very important, the new dimension, the new spatial dimension, the functional areas, and I think we can, we have a lot of work to do in the next years, and I think that the Parliament has to play a key role, very more active and more important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. And I think that the best way is to have what we call the ping pong, the debate. So I will give the floor immediately to Tilman Broos to react. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to see that you appreciate the document and especially this inclusion now of functional urban areas. Indeed, that had been a very intensive discussion in our whole discussion process. Preparing this document, and this was highlighted by so many in this circle. So it was very clear from the beginning that we would also have to stress this levels, the spatial level of functional urban areas. But indeed, still a lot has to be done when it comes to the implementation of the urban agenda. I mean, this whole process started in 2016 with the Pact of Amsterdam, and in the meantime, 14 partnerships on different fields have delivered action plans with, I think, more than 130 actions in total. These actions follow these three strands: better regulation, better funding, and better knowledge. With regard to better funding, many partnerships come with quite concrete proposals how to improve let's say, funding environment in Europe for urban activities. That there is not really the idea of conditioning funding of let's say ERDF funding to implementation of the urban agenda. So not such a direct link, but to improve the general conditions for the funding of integrated urban development. And I think in that respect, a lot has been achieved. And I think this very strong urban dimension in the ERDF that we can see now for the new programming period, 21 to 27, is also a result of all these activities in the framework of the urban agenda, because it became even more obvious how important the urban dimension of structural policy is. There I already see a lot of improvement. This PO5, it's political objective on integrated territorial development. I think that is something that some of these partnerships strongly had argued for. Now this has become a reality. And I think that is a huge step forward already to really provide funding for integrated urban development and to make it easier for cities to access this European funding system.
I will immediately jump to another question. And there is also the remark coming from Eddie Hartog about the initiative with the Living in EU initiative from cities and also smaller communities, which is follows one of the urban partnerships. So I just notice as the information. And there is a question, and the question is very practical, because what I also noticed that in the implementation document, there is a very important remark concerning strengthening the partnerships, which I think is a very good idea, to strengthening the partnership. But the question is coming from Christoph Bollot. This is concerning the possible lack of EU funding for financing the action plans for different partnerships. But as you know, the partnerships where they were working on the action plans. And of course, the question is, what will be with the action plans and the financing of them? And the question is, will this be changed in the future? How is the new Leipzig Charter addressing this problem? Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. this issue of stronger support to partnerships is indeed not directly addressed in the new Leipzig Charter, but in the implementation document. As I've mentioned, the idea is to really improve the support provided by a secretariat to partnerships, give more support in terms of expert support, administrative support, management support to the partnerships, as we know there had been a secretariat, but also only with limited funding. Thanks to the parliament, it was possible to fund this secretariat in the past, but for sure more has to be done here, and the implementation document indeed addresses this issue and proposes to establish a secretariat which is more powerful and which will also help partnerships certainly to implement these actions. But I think it's not only up to the partnerships to implement the actions. Many actions address the European scale, address the member states, address perhaps the regional level. So on all these levels, actions have to be delivered in the future. And all these levels will be responsible for implementation of the actions. So it's not only the partnerships and the members of the partnerships which will be responsible.
I think that one of the good practical conclusions of the Amsterdam Pact was partnerships and the concrete proposals. And when I look at the document, which is Leipzig Charter, and the implementation document, even the Leipzig Charter is not very, very theoretical, I must say, which I find very interesting, that in this document, the Leipzig Charter, we can find some elements which are quite concrete for people who are working on this. Like, for example, when you mentioned you translate the very, very traditional division like the sustainable development, which is the environment, social, and economy, and you can translate it into the green, productive, and green and productive and just, which is a sign of time. It's a little bit different approach. It's like also the place-based approach. Place-based approach is a very concrete method. It's not the theoretical concept. It's just like saying some of the people were very critical to the place-based. But I think that when you put it into this element is important. It's like the digital, which is horizontal. Digital, which is not one of the elements. Digital is horizontal for everything, which is, I think, a little bit better than, for example, in the European documents now that we say green and digital. I mean, digital is absolutely horizontal and green as well. But we have some very concrete proposals coming in from the implementation document. And from one of this is the subject for the question, which is coming from Carolina Dudkiewicz-Garcia, which is I will just read it. Could you develop a bit on the Secretariat for Urban Matters and CPs from more practical side? Timelines and its vision. I think it's a very good question because this is one of the very concrete proposals coming from the implementation document. Please, Tilman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Yes, that's absolutely true. These are very concrete proposals. Nevertheless, it's not easy to give a full answer at this stage. because it's an ongoing process at the moment. One of the original sources of these ideas to establish a secretariat and to establish national contact point indeed comes from this proposal of the European Commission to establish a European Urban Initiative that is mentioned in Article 10 of the ERDF regulation. The idea of this European Urban Initiative is to put together all the different activities and initiatives in integrated urban development on the European scale, this European Urban Development Network, or the Urban Innovative Actions. There's also the idea to support the urban agenda, to support intergovernmental cooperation, and also to establish national contact points to better link the European level with the national activities in urban policies in the member states. The implementation document also reacted on this initiative and included the general idea of national contact points and of a secretariat for urban matters, as the document calls it here. It is at the moment really we are in the midst of the discussion with the Commission. Because financing of the secretariat and of the national contact points will be by this European Urban Initiative. We know that the regulation is not finally adopted now. It's more or less finished, but not finally adopted. This will take some time, and the whole establishment of this European Urban Initiative will also take some time, and it will not really be operational, let's say, until the end of this year, which gives us room and time to discuss details of the secretariat and the national contact points in the course of this year, and until the ministerial that is foreseen under Slovene presidency, there we will then finally decide on details concerning these two elements, these two new elements that are very much connected to this European Urban Initiative.
It was a very diplomatic answer, so I will push you to the wall. And one of the problems with the Secretariat for Urban Agenda was the question of ownership. Who is in fact the owner of the urban agenda? I remember at that time, it was a debate with the European Commission that the Commission said it's not us, it's the intergovernmental. It's like this is the Dutch, initiative, etc. So when you, you're absolutely right and correct saying that it's not finished, it's not decided yet. So my question is much more to your private or maybe your individual opinion, which is private, is not for public, but individual opinion is, while discussing the problem of the future Secretariat for Urban Matters, should it be the Secretariat organized and owned in a political sense by the European Commission? as a European problem, a European matter, or because the question of financing the Secretariat, this is it. I mean, this is not the question of money. The Secretariat is the question of the ownership. Who is responsible? Who is the owner of the whole idea? I think that the Secretariat for Urban Matters, which should be for the urban initiative, for the whole urban initiative, should be organized by the Commission as a purely European problem. I don't know if you can give your opinion. It's not, nothing is decided yet. It's nothing in the ERDF. We don't have the Secretariat for a moment. We have the urban initiative. But I would like to know your opinion about this, because in general terms, who should be responsible for this?
Mm. Yeah. Well, here I have indeed a slightly different opinion. We as member states are always convinced that urban policy is competence of the member states. This is not a European competence. That is why we think that also the ownership of the whole urban agenda cannot be with the European Commission only. This is really a joint responsibility of all levels. Well, my personal opinion is that for the time being, the position of the Commission has been quite strong. This secretariat that we had in the past, this was very much steered by the Commission. Of course, it was also financed by the Commission, so that's obvious. But the idea of the implementation document is that we should move to a joint responsibility, also with regard to the governance of the urban agenda. So that should really be shared by Commission and member states. So we think that both stakeholders have to play a major role, and that the steering role of the member states should be highlighted, should be increased, and that would be another idea why we pushed forward this idea of the Secretariat. I think that was also highlighted in the assessment study of the urban agenda, and for the implementation document, of course, we used this assessment study as an important input. Yeah, we think we really have to move to a shared responsibility, because we think also this was the original idea, the spirit of this Pact of Amsterdam, that all levels have to work together, the European level, the member state level, the city levels, and it's a joint ownership. My personal feeling is that in the past, this ownership seemed to be very much on the European scale, and the implementation document would the idea is to change this at least slightly.
Partially agree with you, because from our point of view, it was European in a sense of the intergovernmental. So it should be European in the sense of multi-level. I think this is the question. But of course, even if it's multi-level, someone should be responsible for this and responsible for organizing it. I have another question to you, which is coming from Pietro Raviglio, which is it would be interesting to elaborate how the new Leipzig Charter and its implementation could be connected and help reinforce urban policies and investments through the national recovery plans let me remind to the participants, national recovery plans, which is the part of RRF, Recovery and Resilience Instrument Fund. And so the question is how you think it can be linked with this?
Yeah, good question, but I have to admit that I'm not very familiar with his recovery plans, as these activity also in Germany is very much within the Ministry for Economy. And I think these recovery plans really deal with economic questions, health questions, and I think for the time being not so much linked to urban policies. At least that is my my impression. I don't know if there are any other representatives of member states here in this circle who could perhaps answer this question also from their national position and with their national experience.
Yeah, but let me add something. But before doing it, I would just draw your attention for the chat, where the Gisela Kallenbach, as I said, who was very active in the first charter, they gave us some remarks. Which is what she writes is pleased to notice the further development Leipzig Charter, which proves the right path we started. And I agree with others that still have a lack of implementation, especially regrettable keeping in mind crises which may be ahead of us, like climate change, social disparities, immigration. Hopefully cities and regions notice the benefits in a long perspective of applying the new urban agenda. Unfortunately, Gisela has to leave us because of the other family obligation, as you see in the chat. But I would like to once again to thank Gisela for being with us and for everything she has done as a member of the parliament during the Leipzig Charter preparations, which was very, very important because it was a kind of turning point. But let me add something to what you said. Is the recently, Parliament has just finished the negotiations on RRF and preparation of the national programs. And what Parliament achieved is that it will be written in the regulation that the national program, national recovery plans should be consulted with the local authorities and NGOs. So I think this is something which is very, very important. And when you look at the elements, what should be done in these national programs is very clear. Another element of the national program is that the national programs should not replace the internal spendings of the national budgets. So it cannot be just replacing the national budget. It should be to save the economy through the new innovative, digital-oriented, green-oriented, but also the oriented to the European semester and the necessary reforms. And when you look at the elements of the national reforms, and it's very, very strongly oriented to the change of the energy resources, etc. So I think that maybe it's not written directly, but I think that all the urban authorities, local authorities should take the text once it's approved and to go to the government and say, okay, but we have the right to be consulted with the National Recovery Fund, and we see the elements which are absolutely necessary should be implemented on the on the city level, because it's not possible to do it differently. So I just draw your attention to the regulation of RRF. This regulation will be finalized and voted probably in February, and that's why we will have the final text. But of course, to have the national recovery plans, we need the recovery fund. And to have the recovery fund, we need the ratification in all the parliaments of member states, including some of the regional parliaments, altogether 41 parliaments. So we will not have the national recovery plans without the funds. And the last remark also to inform the colleagues who are present that the whole RRF, which is based on the national recovery plans, will have also the obligation to repay everything which has been done according to the plan from February 2020. From February 2020. So I think that this is refinancing national recovery plans, but also what is important for the urban policy, the REACT-EU. REACT-EU is the additional money for the cohesion, which is also it's 52 billion, and it's also to refinance the spendings mainly made by the local authorities, I think, from February 2020. So it's just to complement what you said. I'm looking at the chat. If there is anybody who wants to take the floor, I don't see. I mean, this is the Eugen Panescu, who is what connection could appear between the Leipzig Charter and the newly announced European Bauhaus towards implementing the EU Green Deal? They both aggregate multi-level stakeholders, including citizens, participation, awareness. So the Eugen Panescu represents the Architects Council of Europe. So Tilman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, thanks to Eugen for this question on this very interesting idea of this European Bauhaus. I know it's much discussed and debated at this very moment. I think this idea of the European Bauhaus had first been presented by the President of the Commission. I have to admit that I'm not totally familiar with this idea of this European Bauhaus, but of course it's connected to the European Green Deal and this renovation wave, the New Leipzig Charter, of course, as I have pointed out, addresses this idea of the Baukultur, of high quality urban planning process, and there I definitely see this link to the idea of the European Bauhaus, also with regard, as you have pointed out here, the participation aspects, including citizens and stakeholders in the whole process.
I have the demand for the floor from Marcos Rosembre concerning Bauhaus. Marcos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jan. Yes, concerning New European Bauhaus, we have been working, I have been working a lot in the last few months since von der Leyen announced this on the European debate of the State of the European Union, sorry. I think one of the main things we are trying to introduce on the New European Bauhaus is the urban dimension. Because at the beginning, the New European Bauhaus only concerns concerned to renovation of buildings, but not urban areas. And so we are trying to incorporate this. We have been talking with the European Commission. We have been talking with the European, with the Architects Council of Europe. We have had several meetings with the Bureau of the Architects Council of Europe, and with the European Committee of the Regions, which is also here, and with the Commission. And I think they should be very linked. The European renovation wave and the implementation of the urban agenda. Because if we don't link all the instruments that the Commission is showing and developing, we have the risk of work on different issues, but not being able to read the city as a multi-level, only unical question. But we cannot see the different levels isolated. We have to incorporate them all together. And that's is related to my previous worry that I said before. How could we condition the funding to the to the achievement of the objectives of the European urban agenda, the renovation wave? Because many cities receive fundings. They present a project, a specific project on any area, and they develop this project, but this project maybe don't go on the objectives of the European urban agenda. So how could we condition in the future, in the operative program, in the new operative program, how could we condition these funds to effective developing of the urban agenda? This is, I think this is one of the key points that we have to solve in the very, very next future before all the things. Thank you.
Yes, Tilman, do you have the reaction for this question? And I think this is much more the voice in the debate, which is very, very complicated. But Tilman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, indeed, I also see this this possible link or this also this opportunity that comes from this idea of this new European Bauhaus, also to open the door to a wider view, not only to focus on the building only and energy efficiency of one building, but to widen the view to the whole urban environment and to see this all these energy efficiency issues on a neighborhood scale, which is, I think, much more useful, and we have made some good experiences with this approach also in Germany. And in the urban agenda, we have one partnership on energy transition. And this energy transition partnership also addresses this question of energy efficiency on this neighborhood scale. So I definitely see this link and a potential to implement ideas that come from this urban agenda partnership in the framework of this renovation wave and this new European Bauhaus. So I definitely see there an opportunity. I have no final idea how to translate this really into the operational programs. You know, these operational programs are always agreed on at the regional level and in most member states. What we do at the moment in Germany is that we work on the partnership agreement. Now, the partnership agreement is the first step. All this is agreement between the member states and the Commission on the next programming period. And there we try to put in principles of the new Leipzig Charter into this partnership agreement with the idea that this will be also taken up in the operational programs, because that is, of course, the main objective of the partnership agreement, to give the framework also for the operational programs. So that is at the moment the approach that we follow here in Germany, in order to really translate the ideas of the new Leipzig Charter in the operational program. So we do not have the possibility to directly influence the operational programs, because that's really up to the regions. But we can at least try to influence them via the partnership agreement. So that is the way we proceed in Germany at the moment.
Yes. In the chat, we have also the remark from Hans Verdonk concerning within the ERDF preparations, we are required to base the activities on implementation plan. This is based on urban strategy and the ERDF regulation. I am just reading it. Clearly, we try to follow the lines of urban agenda, but obviously legal requirements are leading. But I think that if I can just add some remark to the question of Marcos, there is ongoing debate all the time. To what extent how European level can condition something? Is it possible or not politically? And very often me as a former mayor, I said, okay, there is nothing wrong to conditionalize, to saying that if you want European money, you should follow the European agenda, because this is European money. So if you want to do something differently, you can use the other resources. But if you want to have the European money, you should follow the urban strategy, etc. So I think this should be very, very clear. That's why I think that we should use the elements of the Leipzig Charter, and of course all the partnerships and the action plans to say, is it possible? Yes, it's possible, because especially in the very famous 8% reserve for the integrated approach activities, this is something which is absolutely reserved for the local authorities. And I think there is nothing wrong to put it in the operational programs, to follow the lines which are in the Leipzig Charter, for example, European agenda. So I think I absolutely agree with Marcos, if I understand you well, that it should be kind of conditionalization. Once the operation programs are prepared, they should be consulted the European Commission, and they should be at the question, what about the urban dimension? What about the urban strategy? And especially when you look, for me, what is important in the Leipzig Charter is, for example, the three spatial dimensions. This is very interesting. When you say about neighborhood, local authorities, and functional areas. I mean, to put it very, very openly about for example, the metropolitan areas, this is something very urgent. This is something very important, politically speaking. This is something which is the future of urban areas. Very often our colleagues from the rural development, they are afraid that we are speaking about the metropolis and they have enough money. No, metropolitan areas is different. This is about something which is creating the functional and using the functional areas. And so I think that probably we will use the Leipzig Charter in our debate, saying that this is the element for the future to speak differently. I mean, in a very modern way. We cannot speak about only one municipality. We should speak about the functional areas, which doesn't reduce the local authorities' competence. In contrary, it reinforces the competence, but it should be also in the operational programs. So I'm one of the person who is absolutely supporting the conditionalization in the European policy. So I think that if I understand well, Tilman, the functional areas is something which is one of the basic elements of the Leipzig Charter. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely, Jan. we really had intensive discussions on this issue of functional urban areas in our whole preparation process, and this came out as one of the main elements that was emphasized by so many members of all these groups and results of all these discussions. And it's also very much linked then to the territorial agenda, of course, as the document that was adopted at the Ministerial for Territorial Cohesion. And there we also see a strong link between the urban dimension and the regional dimension. We always say that the New Leipzig Charter and the territorial agenda really belong together, and also some, we always say two parts or two sides of the same coin. So it is, it's absolutely an issue. What I would like to add here, what Hans from Rotterdam said here, I think that's very important. Because I think when it comes to using the European funds, then I think it's also important that cities really try to link their strategy to the ideas of the urban agenda, of course, taking into account the whole legal framework that is given by the whole cohesion policy legislation. But I think especially this PO5 and these Article 9, 8% minimum of integrated urban development, that really gives a great opportunity for cities to do what they want to achieve, also in the framework of the urban agenda.
To thank Marcos to remind me, because I'm just looking at one screen on one speaker, so I haven't seen Cristina Gutierrez Cortines, who wanted to take the floor. So Cristina, I would like to apologize, but I haven't seen it. So Cristina Gutierrez Cortines, floor is yours.
Yes. Good morning. Congratulations for this. It's extraordinary. Hello, everybody, and hello, Marcos also, and hello, Jan. Listen, I have been working 4 years with citizens and with some cities. And we make, but with all citizens and associations. And from my view, one of the problems that we have is that all the system of European funds and all the system of the urban agenda is around authorities, local authorities, but they don't get connections with the society. In Spain, we have little participation. So the problems that the real problems are not in the listening. We have not access to the real people who manage in Europe and in the cities and in the national level, the urban agenda. So the real problems and the functional problems, one of the things that I like more about Leipzig chart is that it insists about the functional side of the functional side is life, is commerce, is activities, is economy, is innovation. But the functional areas of the chart are forbidden. And that is in the hands of the society, because the development of the city is economic activity, relations, and economic level of the society, of the citizens. So for me, one of the issues that I believe I am asking Professor Butzog, how we can insist about the functional aspects of the city, how we can increase their participation, and in a certain way to introduce in the resilience funds the need and indicators of real participation. Because everything is in official hands. And they made a lot of agendas, but are paper sustainability, only paper sustainability. They don't have nothing to do with society. how we could increase these silos. More democracy at the end.
Okay, this is the difficult question to Tilman Buchholz. So can you try to answer these remarks of Christina, which is very experienced parliamentarian and now working on the field? Yes, Tilman, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you also for addressing this issue of participation. I mean, participation culture, I think, is different from member state to member state, from region to region, probably also from city to city. What the New Leipzig Charter calls for very clearly is this integrated approach on urban development that really needs participation. Citizen participation from the very beginning of all urban development planning processes in all steps of urban development processes. So the New Leipzig Charter really highlights the importance of participation. Not only of citizens, but also of civil society, of the economic actors, of commercial actors, of social groups, of community organizations. This involvement is absolutely critical. I mean, this a principle of partnership. This partnership principle is also a main part of the whole regulation. Also, the operational programs have to be produced with a strong participative element. This is even more important on the urban scale, of course. When it comes to urban integrated development projects, and the New Leipzig Charter widens even this focus of participation to this notion of co-creation and co-production that even goes beyond normal participation, but asks citizens really to really come with very concrete ideas on the future of their cities, and help cities to manage conflicting interests, to share responsibilities. It's also the idea to give the responsibility of urban development not to administrations only, but to open it to a much wider floor, and give all citizens the opportunity to really influence the local development on the ground, because we always say the citizens know best what is necessary in their direct urban environment and neighborhood. And that's why the New Leipzig Charter is very strong on this idea of participation.
Because I don't see the other, but because Christina is a practitioner, so I think that we know very well that the documents is one thing, the reality is different. The question is how we use the documents. And I think the whole work of our intergroup is our continuous fight for making it practical. I mean, yes. not to make the documents as like the witness of history, but to make it useful. So I have maybe the last question to you, which will be very provocative. But in your implementation document, you propose the national contact points, and this is the most provocative question I have. How do you think, who should organize the national contact points? Because if it's organized by the governments, congratulations, the urban authorities will not be very interested in this, and the NGOs either. So I think do you think that the national contact points should be also multi-level? I mean, what is behind the idea of the national contact points? Tilman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. That's indeed an absolutely relevant and a very crucial question, and that's why it's really top of our current list of debate between the member states and the Commission. As I have said, the original idea came from the European Urban Initiative to establish national contact points. We already agreed that the member states will be up to the member states to decide where to place these national contact points. And it's also absolutely sure that this needs a multi-level governance approach. And that the city level will also be included. In the end, the member states will have the final word on establishment of these contact points. I guess that some member states will say, okay, we will have that within our ministry. I think especially small member states are I think especially for small member states, that might be a good solution because they have a direct link to the cities and they are really also the voice of their cities because they know the situation in their member states best. We will certainly have other member states who will probably decide to give that perhaps to the National City Association. Maybe that could be a solution for some member states, or giving it to other organizations or institutions, so that it's something that will have to be decided I think later, but the discussion is ongoing. What I would only point out that is that really urban development is an issue, competence of the member states, and we also feel that the representatives of the member states have a good knowledge of what is happening in the cities of their countries, because many member states have national urban policies. We in Germany have this national urban development policy, which is really a multi-level governance initiative, because it's the federal level, it's the Länder level, the regional level in Germany, and the cities are included. And we have permanent discussion around urban development issues in the framework of this initiative, and other member states have similar initiatives. So I think it's a good idea to give member states the role to define where these and how these national contact points will be established.
Yes, but it's not a democracy. They're officials.
You know, from us as the parliamentarians and practitioners, we are really we have some doubts, to tell it very diplomatically, and I would rather suggest that this national contact points should be organized together with on the different actors together. Maybe not in the jobs, full-time jobs, but they need to organize together, because if not, you know, this is politics. And for example, in my country, some of the local authorities, they will be never let it into the office of this if it's organized by the government because of the political problems. So in other member states, this is different. So I think it should be, this is a very good idea. But I think the urban dimension and the whole issue of the partnership is absolutely multi-level. So I think it should reinforce that it should be also multi-level, this national contact points, not to have 20 people, the staff, but to have it organized together. So I think, and it should be kind of condition coming from Europe. I think this is something together with also the NGOs and the people representing different groups. So I think that we are going close to the end because as the remote system, 1 hour is average. So I think that I can promise you that we will try to organize another event which is targeted of urban dimension of cohesion policy. But I think this is mainly after the RDF is finished and the CPR is finished. So we will have the instrument in our hands and we can make during our conference the link between the ERDF and CPR and the Leipzig Charter, and to see what is the link between all of them. So I think that it was interesting, very interesting for me, especially when you said about the better knowledge. This is much more targeted. This is something which is what we are fighting for, to make it more targeted, to make it very practically oriented, to make it useful for the urban authorities on the functional areas, etc. So I will leave it to you with this remark. And I think that I hope I will invite you to another meeting. Thank you very much for participation. I see that Fabienne is back with us. So I think that I hope that the next meetings, maybe not very soon, but will be possible physically, I mean, in our physical presence. And it will be much different to discuss and to see each other. But you know, the old debate among the sociologists, I'm sociologist, is also the question: if we have the video, is it face to face or not? We have to answer today that this is face to face. But okay, I would like to thank you, Tillmann Buchholz from the German Federal Ministry of Interior, Building and Community. You notice I didn't make a mistake. So, and all of you who stayed with us, and I think it was really very interesting to see. And now, colleagues, we have to read the Leipzig Charter with details and to discover what is in the text and what is between the lines and what is the idea of German presidency. I hope that the German government and German people who are working, they will take care of it after the German presidency. And the ownership will be not given just to another presidency. I wish you good luck and thank you very much. And all the best once again for the new year 21. I hope it will not be worse than the former one, because I hope it will be very good. So thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.